Self-awareness stands as one of the most profound attributes of human consciousness. It is the ability to reflect on our own existence, to be both the observer and the observed. This reflective capacity has enabled humans to create art, develop philosophy, construct identities, and question their own beliefs and actions. Yet, at the heart of self-awareness lies a paradox, a fundamental contradiction that challenges our understanding of consciousness and identity. This paradox stems from the recursive nature of self-awareness. The self that becomes aware is simultaneously the object and the subject of that awareness. As we attempt to define the self, we find it slipping through our grasp, ever-shifting and self-referential. This essay will explore the paradox of self-awareness through philosophical, psychological, and neurological lenses, and consider its implications for our understanding of the self and reality. At the root of the paradox is the duality inherent in self-awareness. When we become aware of ourselves, we split internally into two roles, the observer and the observed. This dichotomy is famously illustrated in René Descartes' cogito, ergo sum, I think, therefore I am. Descartes asserts the existence of the self through the act of thinking. But what is the nature of the I that thinks? Is it the same as the I that is aware of the thinking? This recursive loop, the mind becoming aware of itself, creates an infinite regress. Each layer of awareness gives rise to another, I am aware that I am aware that I am aware. And so on. The self becomes an elusive entity, always one step removed from full comprehension. Philosophers such as Soren Kierkegaard and Jean-Paul Sartre explored this phenomenon, with Sartre positing that consciousness is always consciousness of something, including itself, yet it cannot fully grasp itself because it is not a fixed substance but a process. Psychologists have long grappled with the implications of self-awareness. William James, in his foundational work The Principles of Psychology, 1890, distinguished between the I, the pure ego, or the experiencer, and the me, the self as an object of reflection. This dualistic model reinforces the paradox, the I that experiences cannot fully be turned into a me without losing its immediate essence. Modern psychology recognizes self-awareness as a higher-order cognitive function that allows humans to engage in introspection, self-regulation, and empathy. However, heightened self-awareness can lead to existential anxiety. When individuals become acutely aware of their mortality, flaws, or contradictions, they may experience psychological distress. The philosopher-psychologist Viktor Frankl observed that in the face of such awareness, individuals often seek meaning to reconcile the inner tension. Another paradox, awareness of the absurd drives the quest for purpose. Neuroscience provides a more mechanistic view of self-awareness, suggesting it arises from complex networks in the brain, particularly in areas such as the prefrontal cortex and the default mode network. Experiments with split-brain patients, individuals whose corpus callosum has been severed, reveal startling insights into the fragmented nature of consciousness. In these cases, each hemisphere can seem to possess its own will and perception, suggesting that the unified self we experience may be an illusion, a narrative constructed by the brain. Moreover, research into disorders such as dissociative identity disorder, D, and depersonalization further complicates the picture. If the self can fragment or become estranged from itself, what does that say about the real self? Neuroscience seems to imply that self-awareness is not a single faculty but a constellation of processes that give rise to the illusion of a coherent identity. The paradox of self-awareness challenges not only our understanding of the self, but also our pursuit of truth. If our perception of ourselves is inherently recursive and unstable, can we ever claim to know ourselves truly? Socrates famously declared, "Know thyself," yet the more deeply we attempt this, the more fragmented and contingent the self appears. In Eastern philosophies, particularly Buddhism, the self is considered a delusion, a construct arising from clinging and ignorance. The path to enlightenment involves seeing through the illusion of a permanent, independent self. This stands in contrast to Western traditions that often emphasize the importance of the individual ego and its development. The paradox is thus culturally situated. In some frameworks, the dissolution of the self is liberation, in others, it is a crisis. The paradox of self-awareness reveals the profound complexity at the heart of human consciousness. To be aware of oneself is to both divide and unify, to pursue knowledge that is always slightly out of reach. Whether approached through philosophy, psychology, or neuroscience, self-awareness resists reduction to a simple concept. It is at once a source of freedom and alienation, of insight and confusion. Perhaps the value of this paradox lies not in resolving it, but in embracing it, acknowledging that the self is not a static entity to be discovered, but a dynamic process to be experienced. In this light, the journey toward self-understanding becomes an open-ended exploration, not of a fixed identity, but of the infinite ways in which we come to know and re-know ourselves.